Welcome to Owning This Life, the show that celebrates, explores, and uncovers exactly what it means to owning your life, to owning your destiny. Last week, you had the rare opportunity to find out who MJ actually is behind the scenes. I told you a little bit of my dreams, my goals, and where I come from. But this week, you get to hear a little bit more of who I am and what I envision for the future of my life and the show. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and let me know what you think about MJ underneath the surface. Imposter syndrome is one of the biggest struggles. The question always resonates in my head. Why do you think you can even do this? What about this do you think is even going to make an impact in people's lives? That's literally my inner talk every single day, and I'm having to fight that battle internally every day. I think also because growing the show organically has been really tough on my mental status. It's really hard to see such a slow growth after such a long time and not understand why people don't recognize or see what you see in these episodes. Also, the landscape in South Africa makes it a little difficult to get this kind of show out because I'm not doing comedy. I'm not being, a little crazy. I'm not showing off my Sasha Fierce in these interviews specifically because I feel like the meaning in the conversations is more valuable than being my crazy self, right? That's been the toughest thing for me, and every day I'm trying to talk myself out of giving up because it's my life's work. It's something that I'm purposed to do. It comes from within me, but my mind is just at odds with me every single minute of every day. No, I'm doing this on my own. So I do have a team, of course. I have a great team. My husband's been like number one on my team. We're not making any money from this. So this is actually, it started as a passion project. And it still is a passion project, actually. However, I feel like what the show has done for me personally is that it's made me be more comfortable with my voice. So now I'm not afraid to say, I feel A, B, and C, and be emotional and be open, and that's actually drawn more people closer to me and what I'm saying. So since then, we have had people interested in working with us. Not everything pans out, as you know, in life, but we've had one really great sponsor who sees me and sees where my heart lies and has given us sponsorship based on the fact that they see the quality of the communication and the topics that we're discussing. So it's been rough. I mean, business in general is rough. This is not necessarily a business because it's my passion, but it's hard to keep going when you know you need to feed a family the following day. So I've had a lot of light bulb moments, like a lot. Like, you're sitting in the middle of an interview and you have no idea like what this person's going to say. And then they shift your entire perspective in the middle of an interview. It's made me rethink a lot of the things in my life. The first season, which was not great, was simply just having people that I knew who were really wise sit with me. And two of those people is Tiffany, my friend who lives in Miami in the US, and then one of my coaching friends who I'm glad were the first interviews we did because they opened up my mind to a whole world of possibilities I didn't realize existed. I was still very biased, very narrow-minded back then, although I'm not completely there yet. But they, I think, open up what owning this life is now. They help that process. Also, I had an amazing conversation with Mapalo Maku, who is a finance guru. I call her guru. And she literally made me re-look at my finances in a completely different way. Also, her conversation helped me realize how we all don't understand that money is fluid, right? And how we use money to define where we want to be and want to go. It's still a learning lesson, I think, for everyone every day, but those are pivotal moments that made me shift my own life experience. one of the most controversial topics we've spoken about on my show that I think I'll speak about forever because it was a mind-blowing moment for me was when I sat with Tando Kumeri and we spoke about white heteropatriarchy. I had no idea how, first of all, how racism existed so deeply in our system in South Africa. I mean, we know we come from apartheid, but we don't understand how even us who are fighting the system are still perpetuating the system every single day by giving it allowances to do the things that we're trying to stop. And it made me really look at the nitty-gritty things like how we treat the people in our immediate vicinity, how the people who work for us are being treated financially and as human beings. We don't really look at ourselves in that way every day. And Tando really blew my mind wide open. So much so that we ended up having a 2.5-hour conversation. And I would still want to do more work with her because I feel like she's at the precipice of what we all need to know. This whole thing of white heteropatriarchy doesn't exist only with white people. It's something we have taught ourselves to continue doing because we're trying to have a better life. But at the end of the day, we keep holding ourselves back because we've allowed the system to literally control how we move, how we eat, where we go, why we go there, and what we even think on a normal day. So 2020, I think for majority of the world has been tough. And I think also because of the focus of COVID-19 and the illness and everyone that got sick and died. And my heart really breaks for those people because it really wasn't fair. But in hindsight, 2020, hindsight was the vision year. The year where we needed to really focus on those things that were being hidden all of this time. That we weren't paying attention to because we were in the busyness. We had to sit still long enough to recognize that things were happening. Then the death of George Floyd was a big thing. We've been talking about the murders in the US for a long time on black people, but we didn't really pay attention to what was actually happening and how the system kept redoing the same thing over and over again. Then there was a fight that I ended up getting involved in where big corporates in South Africa were really just being snarky about the fact that there are 90% people of color in South Africa and completely overlooking even involving those people in their campaigns. I mean, so many businesses, big businesses got big flack this year, which they needed. Because at the end of the day, their management is still all white, so they can't make decisions on behalf of people of color because they don't have a person of color's experience. And then recently, we've had the death of Nathaniel Julius in Eldorado Park, which is pretty close to where I come from. And I still have family who live there. That, I think, for the community literally shook everyone. Not only because of the fact that he was a young colored boy, but he also had Down syndrome, which is such an extreme, the way that he died was so extreme. And then also by the hands of police. It begs the question, are our communities taken care of? Are our people being taken care of? And what kind of community service are we even giving to our people in the first place? So a lot of that has spoken to me personally this year. And I feel like it's spoken to so many other people. And these conversations need to continue after this year. So it might have been tough, but I'm feeling blessed to know what's actually going on behind the scenes. Because now it's made us aware that we need to stop looking away and really pay attention. Every right has its responsibilities. Like the right itself, these responsibilities stem from no man-made law, but from the very nature of man and society. The security, progress, and welfare of one group is measured finally in the security, progress, and welfare of all mankind. Louis Swellenbach. Don't be like me. Me is me. I'm the only me there is. You are you. You're the only you there is. I think comparisons are very high now, especially in the age of social media. And I've said to a lot of people before that I'd like to be like them. But in the back of my head, it was not I want to be you. I want to be a version of you that's a version of me. I want to have the confidence you have, is what I was saying. I want to have the courage you have, is what I was saying. And what I want to let young people specifically know is, at the end of the day, you need to find out and define who you are. That's going to change over the years. Who you are when you're 15 is not going to be who you are when you're 50. There are a lot of lessons to learn in between those years. You need to define who you are where you are right now. This moment matters. And if you understand that, what you do is going to be uniquely you, and it needs to remain uniquely you. But also at the same time, I feel like people make mistakes when they're younger and don't know how to get reprieve from them because they feel ashamed, and then they dumb who they are based on that. You apologize openly and loudly and say where you've learned. Because at the end of the day, every lesson you learn and the struggle you go through and every time you stumble your toe is literally a learning for somebody else. Essentially, all of our stories is actually for somebody else at the end of the day. It's not for you to hold. So you want to be like me, but rather try and be all of who you are. Just find strength. Find strength, find courage, find wisdom overall, and surround yourself with the kind of people who push you to be further along than where you are now. I don't feel like I have a responsibility to my people. I feel like I have a responsibility to myself. And that responsibility is to retrain myself and reteach myself, or how can I say, unteach and then reteach myself the things I thought were right and wrong previously. In doing so, I hope to teach my people the same thing. At the end of the day, they are responsible for themselves, and what they learn is up to them. I can only be an example through my life experience. I can't be the teacher of their lives and tell them it's time to shift and to grow and to learn. That is totally up to them. So everything that I do is hoping that I live a life that demonstrates you can have all you need to have if you just decide to change your mindset. The biggest thing I think for me, other than speaking out and allowing people to be who they are, there are two things I think. In my life experience, it's really embracing birth. And I'm not talking about spiritual birth now, I'm talking about women who have babies, right? I don't feel like we talk about this enough. I don't feel like we discuss how society has trained us that it needs to happen in a particular way. But that experience in itself can be so phenomenal if we really just learn. But at the end of the day, we are so complacent with how society has given us all these amazing things that make our lives easy. We don't do the research. We don't sit with ourselves long enough to figure out, if I allow a doctor or a midwife or whoever to help me with A, B, and C, how much of my rights and how much of my experience is going to be taken away from me. So I really advocate hard for natural birth. I advocate hard for the natural experience from beginning to end. But also, I've learned recently, and I think I might end up advocating for this at some point in my life, is that grace is so phenomenal and so big. And if you understand the layers that grace entails, your life will be a completely different experience. We get angry, upset, and hurt by the things people do, but grace doesn't allow that. Grace allows you to see why people do, say, and think and feel the way they do, and opens up a space for them to be free to feel all they feel, even though you think the intention is to hurt you. So I don't think as humans we fully understand what grace means, and it warrants every single person to do the research, the study, the reading, and find the full understanding of it. I think for me, I battle with myself every day. Like I said earlier. But what I'm finding is I'm becoming so much more comfortable in my own skin. I'm becoming so much more comfortable with the fact that I have faults and I can be honest about them. Also, the fact that I try to approach people and conversations away from a judgmental point of view. So I feel like maybe it's the experience that I'm having that it feels phenomenal, because I don't have to bunch myself in a box anymore to fit someone else's space. So that's made me feel freer, I think, than I've ever been before. So I think it's more the experience I'm describing than me, but it's how I feel. Thank you so much for the time. It's really interesting having to talk about myself, but I really appreciate that everyone listens. But at the same time, I think it gives people more insight to why I'm doing what I'm doing. And it's not just to have a show for the sake of it. At the end of the day, I need to give you some light and see where it is you need to go with your life. So that's the plan. So now you know a little bit more about the MJay you see interviewing people on screen every single week. I actually find that sitting in the hot seat is a little weird for me because I'm so used to asking the questions. But I'm also learning so much more about what I've experienced throughout this entire journey. I really hope you enjoyed the show, and thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to share, comment and like on the videos. Also ask us a little bit of questions and I'm sure we'll get back to you in no time. Remember, if you need any more information on the show, visit us on owningthislife.co.za, and if you have any suggestions, you can email us on info@owningthislife.co.za. Next week, we have an amazing guest in studio, and since we're closing off season 3, I wanted to finish off with a bang. Everyone in South Africa must have either heard this name or seen this person do amazing things on TV. He's won awards, he's traveled around the world and done things that I think most people would only try to attempt in their lifetime. Make sure you tune in for the season finale of Owning This Life. It's going to be an amazing experience. See you guys next week.